Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installment of Above It All, the series in which I talk about how important freedom of speech is. And I'm very cold, so I've got my Snuggie on. It's about 1 degree centigrade where I'm currently residing. I don't have heat. I've got a warm cup of coffee. This is not my cup, but it's got coffee in it, so now it's mine by default. I don't even like Pokemon, but that's not important right now. What is important right now is, so currently the Senate impeachment trial is on break. They're doing a recess, and I've been reading into the story while I've had that on in my other monitor. And this is bad news. So, for those of you that aren't super familiar with Brazil, Brazil currently has a literal neo-fascist who's the president of that country. The only reason why he's in the the only reason why he won election is because the person that was polling way higher than him, Lula da Silva, was sent to prison over essentially what ultimately became to be known as fake garbage. The prosecutor and the judge in that case actually were the same person, and they fabricated a bunch of evidence to try to get Lula thrown away for good. And The Intercept, which Glenn Greenwald is either founder or co-founder of, basically they played the biggest role in kind of documenting that Sergio Moro and his team were essentially falsifying a bunch of garbage, editing, taking one tape and then editing it around, removing parts and switching sentences around to try to make it look like Lula's an evil guy. Essentially, an article that, I guess not necessarily an article, but a grouping of articles that they published based on cell phone leaks, are now being pinned on Glenn Greenwald. So basically, the government, the Bolsonaro government, is basically trying to pin all of the crap that exposed them onto Glenn Greenwald, and this is bad news. So I'm not the hugest Brazil expert. I'll probably be covering this more once I read into it a lot more and once we have more developing information here. But this is just one thing to understand. Free speech, super important. Ultimately, the most important value in a democracy is the freedom to express your opinion. And especially when it comes to expressing factual information. When it comes to posting evidence of these people being corrupt, I mean, that's the ultimate kind of test of freedom of speech, right? You can't have a government that's based on freedom of speech if you can't criticize the government. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous what's happening here. And we've got a good quote that I'd like to just kind of hammer home. We will not be intimidated by these tyrannical attempts to silence journalists. This is a very good quote by Mr. Glenn, because it's just important to understand that the Bolsonaro government is very kind of linked up with the Donald Trump government. They're good friends. I actually, when Bolsonaro was in the United States, he went to Washington, D.C., I was at the protests. I was flipping him off. I was in the front of the crowds. I almost fell over the little metal thing because I was trying to extend my reach. My middle finger was reaching into the confines of a restricted area to showcase my displeasure for this individual. But yeah, these people are friends. Another thing that's super interesting is when Bolsonaro visited the United States, he had direct meetings with CIA leaders. Definitely very weird. It's definitely something that it's very important for the American political sphere just because of this close relationship and the fact that Brazil is the largest country in South America. So it's very important that you understand that this stuff, big deal, big news, definitely something to follow. If you want more information, I suggest, either following Glenn Greenwald on Twitter or, just looking up some more stuff about the Lava Jato criminal case that was, ultimately failed in having Lula be imprisoned. Although I think they're going to try again. From my understanding, they're not done attempting to essentially throw him in prison and lock away, and throw away the key. But either way, they're definitely stepping things up in Brazil. Not good. So definitely something I'm going to be following. I'll probably be posting more stuff once I get more information about it. Yes, so definitely stay tuned. This stuff is important. Freedom of speech is important, and when you have large, democracies just start trying to jail journalists, it's not good. So, especially when, again, they're so friendly with the Trump government. And what does Trump do all the time? Well, the fake news shit. And most of the time, it literally is fake news. But, like, if Trump were in Brazil, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where he totally would do this stuff. The only reason why he hasn't is, and honestly, in my opinion, is just the strength of the institutions that we have in this country. If they were just a little bit weaker, like, we could totally see this stuff happen here. In the same kind of way. Look at how Chelsea Manning has been treated, and so forth, and like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange and all that kind of stuff. So we already have so many issues as far as whistleblower protections. And keep in mind, Bernard Sanders is the only candidate that has sweeping whistleblower protections. So I'm just saying. But I mean, like, this is just, another step into the gutter of cringe that is being against freedom of speech. Huge proponent of freedom of speech. Like, again, this is the one thing. Like, freedom of speech is why I consider myself an anarcho-communist as opposed to just a regular communist, because it is extremely important to keep personal liberty and freedom at the forefront of any sort of political ideology or political kind of roadmap that you're going to be projecting and putting into place. So you have to keep in mind, even if you disagree with stuff, it is important that you let people have the platform to post their stuff. Now, of course, the regular stipulation is, this is not in the same league as, telling people to kill themselves over and over and over again. So again, hate speech and freedom of speech are two different things. Keep that in mind. But important stuff. You got to protect journalists. You got to protect whistleblowers. You got to protect all these people. So definitely stay tuned. Keep, just follow these people and stay informed. It's important.